boy.
Hello, Taiko people. Welcome to another kaDON live stream. This week, we're doing a little bit something different. And we'll do more of these kinds of things as well, where we have guests. And our first guest is none other than our very own Diana Wu.
Hello. I don't know why I wasn't saying anything. For some reason, I thought like you can't hear me. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, this is exciting. It's been, I gotta say, Shoji, it's been a lot of fun seeing you discover like what else we can do with our live stream and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very honored to be guest number one. But as most of you may have noticed in the last few weeks, as we're experimenting with everything, everything's new for us too. So
Yeah,
we
sure.
apologize for any lags or anything like that. But hopefully one day we'll be true podcasters, YouTube influencers, and
Yes.
so on. So.
It's a very steep learning curve. And so yes, like Diana mentioned, please be patient with us. If the stream cuts out like in the middle or there's all kinds of lag or crashes or something, just bear with us. But this week,
right.
the topic that Diana and I are going to be talking about is the kaDON TimbreTaiko. Yay! So if you are at all connected on Facebook or Instagram, you know that Diana has been all about the TimbreTaiko. It's been doing a really great job spreading the word and helping people figure out how to use this. But what happens is we end up answering the same questions like over and over, just like individually to individual people. So we thought it would be good to have this conversation, kind of try to compile a lot of the information and the questions that are out there, and then just have a conversation about the different uses of the TimbreTaiko and what people are using it for, and the common issues and questions that we get.
Yeah. So today we'll cover some of the very basic uses, and I know some people had sent a couple questions, so we'll cover that as well. But we are also testing to see if this works, which is if as you're watching this, you also get some questions, go ahead and comment. So I have my computer. See, it's very like we're gonna try and see if we can field those in at the same time. I already see people signing in. So Shona says hello. Hey Shona. Sayako.
Hi Shona.
Lori. So this is and Eileen. Yeah. So thank you for joining us.
Eileen. Hi Sayako.
So this is that's the kind of thing that we'll try to do. So feel free to ask anything, and if we catch it, hopefully we'll answer it. If we don't catch it, we'll answer it later. So let's get started. Yeah. Shall we try? Let's see what we do. So first of all, thank you to everyone who has bought a TimbreTaiko and those who have been asking us, just like Shoji said, just wanting to know more about it. Like, is TimbreTaiko something that that you might find useful? Hopefully, today's talk can answer some of those questions. But first of all, like Shoji, what was the purpose of TimbreTaiko? Like, why did we decide that this could be a useful tool for people? I feel like I'm quizzing you because I know the answer.
I don't. I'm not entirely sure.
What? Oh, no. Cut the ball.
No, I think the main idea behind the TimbreTaiko was to make a practice pad that is actually more usable for taiko players, so like a regular practice pad, like if you have one, like I have this one's like super old. I've had this for so many years. It's so old that the hard foam is like breaking down. I'm kind of proud of that because it shows that I've practiced a lot on that. But these kinds of pads, they're great, super durable, really cheap, last forever. But the rebound, it feels very strange. Like it's because it's meant for like drum kit players and practicing like snare, where you have a lot more sort of rebound. And then the TimbreTaiko, the feel of it is supposed to be much more like a taiko. So when you're playing taiko, you do get a rebound, but it's not nearly as much as like a snare drum, for example. Yeah. So that was one of the ideas to improve the sort of feel of the practice pad, and then also to record like good sounding taiko and get that all in there and be able to like hear like an actual taiko sound as we're practicing. Is that good?
Yeah. Actually, Nora asked a really cool question. She said, "Who named it?"
Oh,
This is a funny story.
yeah.
I think it's funny because the name wasn't something that just came out of thin air. We had a lot of brainstorming sessions on what to name it. Like some of it wasn't even remotely close to what we call it right now. Like I remember Shoji, yours is like, I have it. We're gonna call it Don Doko Don Don Doko Doko Don Pad. No one's gonna ever search that on Google. Like they're gonna, I mean, how many people can't memorize Kuchishoka that quickly? Now you want it to call Don Doko Deko Don Deko Doko Don Pad. Like, they're never gonna find the thing.
That's funny.
But it was kind of tough. Like we have been kind of stuck on certain names. And I remember around that time I had just come back from Comic-Con. So I suddenly just got into this like superhero comic book mode and just started like listing everything, like Taiko's sidekick, Taiko warrior, Taiko. And sometimes I've realized that when I send out all these not so great ideas, it triggers like Jason's mind. And therefore, take it away, Shoji. Who ended up winning the TimbreTaiko Name Fest?
Yeah, that was Jason.
It was Jason.
Yeah, he came up with the idea of TimbreTaiko because it has the different sounds in it. Like every sound has its own timbre or color of the sound, and so we have to credit Jason for that idea.
Yeah, and that was it. And I actually when he sent that out and said like, oh, timbre and the definition and like Shoji said, like quality of sound, color of sound, I felt like that just totally
fits
it, right? Because that's what makes this different from your average drum pad is that you have this ability to listen and practice to different taiko sounds, which we'll mention in a second. But also, some of the features of the dynamics, like that you can play loud and soft and really be able to do some things with it that you may not be able to do with a regular practice pad. So hope that answered your question, Nora.
And I think, oh, sorry.
No, that was me to fill in the space.
Well, I was going to say, between Diana and myself, we feel like the two of us like cover a large ground in the taiko community. Like the ways that both of us are using this, that totally was not the right thing to say. What was I trying to do?
Like it's close over here. Diana's
no.
There's over here.
No, that's not what I meant to say at all. I was gonna say, between the two of us, we use it in a lot of different ways. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Nice thing.
Okay.
Continue.
Well, I was gonna pass it back to you. Maybe do you want to go into the Diana uses part of this, and then we'll do the Shoji uses part.
Man, you're really digging yourself in a hole. But actually,
I know. It's all live.
I get what you're saying. Right. So, what Shoji is saying that what is like the profile of someone who uses the TimbreTaiko, and I think that's why sometimes people aren't sure whether the TimbreTaiko is something that they might be interested in, and so Shoji and I. So, for example, for me, who am I? I am a taiko student. I'm a taiko teacher. I'm not quite, I compose songs, but it's not something that I'm doing to like Shoji's level. So my uses for something that, so like the TimbreTaiko could be different than Shoji. And Shoji, your profile is master musician.
Yeah. No, I use it a lot for working out ideas, composing, and especially using it with the computer and logic and that kind of thing, and like putting together ideas in the computer with the TimbreTaiko. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But that's my primary use.
Yeah. So one of the things that people may have noticed is that Shoji uses a lot of like that tech, um, and I say these words as if I know what they are. So because I say them a lot now, like he uses the digital audio workstation and audio
Yay,
interface.
good job.
Yeah, well, I have no idea what I said, but he has been using a lot of that. So we'll talk about some of that today. And so that's a good segue to sort of the format of today. So we're gonna try. It won't be too long, but which means if there's things that we didn't cover and you're also so interested in that, we might do a part two of this. But the order that we're trying to do this today is a very basic use of TimbreTaiko, right? The features, and then sort of some of the functions that you can do with the TimbreTaiko, what I find useful, and then the second half would be Shoji kind of venturing into that the technology stuff, because that's where I'm here. If I'm going to start listening to some of this see, I don't even know how to describe it. It's tech.
Yeah. Tools.
Oh, one of my little students just signed on. That's cute.
Nice.
Hey Audrey, tell your mom you want one of these. Okay. So really quick, this for most people you might already know this. So the TimbreTaiko it's programmed with 8. Yeah, I should know this.
Yeah.
NATC, with 8 taiko sounds, right? So that's pretty cool. You have two nagados, high tone, low tone, 2 okedo, same thing, 1 shime, and then we have like the special Miyamoto okedo types, the GB which is of a lower tone, hanebyoshi, and then the old daiko. And I was telling people at NATC that it's not actually 8 sounds, it's actually 16, because all the kas are different as well. So maybe we should start saying that. 16 different sounds. And so so that's usually the first thing that people are aware of. And then the way that it's designed is that you've got your drum pad in the middle where you hit all the domes, okay, and then you've got the rim to hit the kas. And the idea too, though, is why is it this size? The idea was that it's supposed to be something portable, right? Like it's if you wanted something larger, there are things out there that are bigger, like a real drum and whatnot. But having this, what was the weight, about like 1 kilogram?
Yeah.
I use pounds, so I'm not even
yeah.
what kilogram is. So that it's light, pop it in your backpack.
Yeah, it's backpack size, exactly.
Backpack size, no bigger than like a regular laptop. Like, see, I'm just holding it. I hope I don't accidentally drop it. It looks terrible. Anyway, yeah. So it's light. It's for that way you're done practicing. You just toss it. I mean, don't toss it over. Just gently put over on your glove. So what I usually have suggest people do when they first buy this is first of all, you have to of course understand this is not replacing a real taiko, right? Like if you want to buy a real taiko, then you should definitely do that. But most of us are in apartments, and most of us have neighbors who don't even like it when we hit on the couch or something. Okay, so where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So it's not to replace that, but it's to kind of just give maybe a way to practice so that you don't have to worry about bothering your neighbors, and also not have to buy a really expensive taiko just yet. I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Okay. So because knowing that it's not a real taiko, I think a good rule of thumb when you get it is to actually hit it in different areas, kind of get a sense of where the sounds are, what kind of sounds you can get from the TimbreTaiko. I know a lot of people have said the tough part is the ka, because the ka itself is also a sensor. So like just being able to like take it home and like, okay, where do I need to strike it to get the ka, and what's the speed or snap that I need to do. Like once you're familiar with all the different sounds, how you're going to strike it, then you can proceed into how you want to use it. Is that you think so?
Yeah, sounds
Shoji?
good.
Yeah.
I do think your point that like it's not meant to be a replacement for a taiko. I think that needs to be a little bit emphasized because we didn't really design this with like performance in mind. It's really, we designed it more for like an at-home like practice, like that kind of thing. So you want to it's more of like a really souped up practice pad than a replacement for a real taiko.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's to emphasize that it's a really good practice tool. Seeing some of the questions, Jason asked, how much force can
That's a
the
good question.
TimbreTaiko take? Let me go get a baseball bat. We'll try. No, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna do that. Actually, it's a good question.
We don't
I
know
don't know
yet.
the answer. Yeah, because I have
we haven't
so,
we haven't actually tried to hit
so
it as hard as we possibly can.
yeah, we haven't run it through test the way that you run like cars in, like like
Yeah.
throw it against a brick wall or something. So don't do that. Don't do that. But how hard can you hit? So I think this is a good segue to like what kind of bachi you might
Yeah.
use. Yeah. So I think everyone has different preferences. We've advised that you use lighter bachi, so
For
I
sure.
wouldn't use oak. I wouldn't use old Aiko bachi.
No.
However, I think technically you could use anything you want as long as you understand how much force you're pushing into the taiko, right? So it's kind of like you could play on an egg if you but you understand not to hit. Now I'm not saying this is an egg, but you understand how much force you're going to put into it, right? So I know Shoji has some preferences, so I'll pass it to you in a sec. So for me, I tend to use my Leonard Ethel Bravo bachi. They're smaller, they're made of coal. But when and I but when I really want to like snap and feel kind of that bounce back, that's very similar to that taiko. I actually like using just regular Western drumsticks. I don't use those on taiko, but for the TimbreTaiko, I really like the bounce of it. So then I actually feel like I'm not really smacking into it as hard or putting as much weight.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I've used Chudaiko Bachi on it, but it doesn't feel great, to be honest, because one, it's quite small, so you feel like if you had a drum this size and you had Chudaiko Bachi, it just like doesn't feel right. So I tend to use a lot of like taiko set kind of bachi. Like I like this tapered hole one. It's similar to like the Leonard Eto bachi, but this is a really good weight for the TimbreTaiko. And then I have this one too, the maple lion chant bachi tapered. This is also a very good weight. And then I use a lot of like these. These are like the hinoki like shime bachi. And like when I'm recording things, and I really want to have it like I want to get that full range of like dynamic possibilities, I use these. Yeah, because what happens when you use the heavier bachi is like you just tend to play harder. So the like when you're recording into like a software or things, like everything tends to be at one level. And when I'm trying to record, I try to have things have a little bit more shape. So that's when these like really light hinoki shimebachi are really, really great.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I actually thought that so I've been treating the TimbreTaiko as if it was just this giant button, which we'll explain is actually more complicated than that. So I thought I could use any sort of bachi or drumstick to play on it. But I actually bought these drumsticks, like they're even smaller than the ones I was using earlier. And I realized it's not heavy enough to actually get some of the
Yeah,
dynamics out of the TimbreTaiko,
totally.
which is interesting, right? So
Yeah.
that's a good question. So what about the another cool feature about the TimbreTaiko is that the sound that you're hearing is not just one sound. Like it's not just like don 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 all the way. Depending on how hard you hit it, you can get louder sounds. There's a range. There's a loud sound. There's soft sound. There's medium sound. Also, I thought this was interesting when I was first testing it out as well. Is that like the center has one extra like I don't know how to describe it. Like you can like hitting it here versus hitting it here. There's just like there's a difference. So even though again it's not quite like it real taiko, it gives you that sensation of understanding that if you're gonna hit not accurately, you'll get different sounds, right? So it kind of
Yeah.
gave me this sensation of thinking that way, like, okay, you've got to be cautious of where you're hitting. It's just like on a real taiko as well.
Yeah,
So
you do need to generate a certain amount of speed and bachu weight in order to trigger the the loudest sound, basically. And then basically technically the way this is like every don sound has 3 different recordings. It has a soft sample, a medium hit sample, and a loud sample. And if you experiment with it, you can actually hear those 3 different samples within each one. And then, depending on how hard you hit, the TimbreTaiko triggers one of those 3 sounds at the different level, basically. Yeah. So that's why, like when you're playing, if you accent, it's actually triggering like a different recording. Does that make sense? Like a different sample.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
But
then
it's sensitive enough where, like, when I'm recording and I'm like playing back, like I see my own bad habits, represented in the waveform. So I think that's pretty good. I'm like, oh yeah, geez, I always do that. I need to play with my left a little harder on that. You can see those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, I've been telling people, like, the TimbreTaiko does not lie to you. This is like the most brutal instrument when it tells you, like, you're not, well, for me, because I mean, maybe for, it sounds like even you've noticed some things, like, because it's an electronic, like if you're not playing on time, or if you're not like hitting it at a certain, like, it you could hear it, and it's amazing. Like, I think what it does that way for me is to be very aware of it, again, because playing on a real taiko, you may or may not detect it. Some people will because they have really good hearing, but I sometimes get distracted by the fact that there's all this resonance and all these other things happening. And so
Yeah.
that's been really really cool. But actually, why don't we move on to that? So, like,
Yeah.
what, other than the fun sounds, why don't we talk about, like, all these, we're starting to venture into, but still basic tech. I don't know the terminologies for these, so I just call it a bunch of holes. So, what do you,
3.5 millimeter stereo, inputs,
inputs?
outputs.
Is that what they're inputs?
Inputs
It's
and
not port?
outputs, yeah. Ports,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
Would that work? Wait, so jack,
Yeah.
jack is the
Jack, ports, yeah, it's all the same, yeah.
Okay, so there's holes.
Yeah.
There's holes on here. Can't quite see it in the live stream, but you look at a picture. There's 3. So you have this one to put your headphones in, your wired headphones with
Headphone out, yep.
headphone out, and then we've got the middle one, which is the aux in for your auxiliary audio cable. I don't know why I said it like that, like trying to sound all smart. And then my last one is main out. And so each of these will help provide a certain function, feature that you might be interested in. So very first thing, of course, that if you play on this, we do recommend that you use wired headphones. And
Yeah.
Shoji, what do you say about that? Yeah, wired headphones.
Yeah, there's been a few questions about like Bluetooth, because I know a lot of people like Bluetooth headphones. I personally do not like them because one, it compresses the sound, like it lowers the bit rate, so you're getting a worse quality sound. Doesn't matter how much you paid for your Bluetooth headphones, they're going to sound worse than a wired set of headphones, and that's just all there is to it. And the other thing that's really significant is that Bluetooth introduces lag. So because the way it happens, basically whatever is sending the Bluetooth signal, it has to convert that audio into like a Bluetooth signal, right? And that sends it to your headphones, and then your headphones change it back from Bluetooth signal into audio. And then if you have those like in-ear ones, those are even worse because then one has to connect to the other one through a different protocol, and that introduces even more lag. So it's the kind of thing that you don't notice when you're just listening to music, but if you're trying to play along to something, you'll really, really notice it. And there's different levels of Bluetooth codecs. Some of them are the ones they call no lag are actually like 70 milliseconds of lag, which that does get to the level where some people might not notice, but a trained musician, you'll definitely notice. And then the more common Bluetooth codecs are like 300 milliseconds, and that's at the level where everybody will notice. So
Yeah,
don't use Bluetooth headphones when you're practicing. Basically, it's a bad idea. Because even if you have the no lag ones, there is actually a bit of lag. And then what will happen is you'll reinforce bad habits, because like there's this lag where you'll feel like you need to play further ahead on the beat in order to get the sound to come to match up to the music. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So, and most people, 99.9% of people out there, your issue when you're playing with a click or playing along with a video or something is you're going to be ahead. So having like 70 milliseconds of lag it's going to be really hard for you to practice against that tendency. If anything, it's going to reinforce that tendency, and you're not going to improve your time that way, and it's going to kind of defeat the whole purpose of practicing. So Bluetooth is fine for listening to music, but not for playing along, and not when you recording or anything where you need to be accurate.
Yeah, so Shoji and I are kind of I agree. So there's two things. Like I know Shoji's always about like the quality of the sound too. So for me, I'm not quite there yet. So quality of sound, I can accept not so great, but lag is a big kind of a problem. So
Yeah.
so if you find a Bluetooth device that you're pretty positive has no lag, let us know. We'd love to try.
No.
Okay, no, sorry.
You might think it is, but there's lag. I guarantee it.
All right, so don't send it to
It's
Shoji.
just physically, it's technically impossible.
I can I'll edit it and then let you know. And then we'll see. But again, the best sound that I've noticed, of course, is through the wired
Yeah.
heads. Okay. And also I preferably like the ones that kind of cover my ears, because I've also found like
Me
the
too.
sound when you play on it, then it really feels like the drum is in the room, because everyone has a different preference, but that's just my preference and Shoji's preference as well. So then the next is the aux in hole. I don't want to say hole, but yeah.
That's fine. People understand.
All right, and this right here, I feel is what then really like when I first saw the TimbreTaiko, like this is what sold me, because until then I did think, oh, that's cool, it makes cool sounds, but I don't see how again that's any different from anything else I use. Well, I mean that will be significantly not much more different. So with the aux in, if you're going to have to buy one of these, they're very affordable. They're auxiliary audio cable, 3.5 millimeter. You can tell when I'm saying something that's not something I say in everyday conversation.
Yeah, you're doing great though.
My speed,
That was totally convincing.
Auxiliary audio cable, 3.5 millimeter. You can get them on Amazon for about like I think $8 to $10 on average. I
Yeah,
think 10 is
even
actually
less.
kind of
Yeah.
high, even less really. Yeah, depending on who you buy it from. And one way to tell, of course, it's like got those little two stripes there, but the size for sure, because that's what needs to go in here. So what I like to do with the TimbreTaiko then is you plug one of these into that auxiliary one, and then I plug this end into my phone or my computer. If you have an iPhone, then you need one of those headphone jack adapters to do that. But I think most people have those. Otherwise, you can get them for cheap on Amazon to plug it in. And so then what happens is, let's just pretend this is my phone, because I'm using my phone right now. It's my battery, right? Then I can choose like a metronome app. I could choose my favorite song. I can choose an own ensemble performance video, because my biggest dream has been to be a part of an own ensemble performance. Hint, hint. I mean, oh wait, I already did that. Okay, right, and then the sound will play into here, and because my headphones, let's just pretend there's a wire connected, right? I can hear my metronome app, right? I can hear my music, and then I can also hear what I'm playing on the TimbreTaiko.
Yeah.
this has been really useful for me is especially the metronome app aspect or learning music. Is because as we were saying earlier, TimbreTaiko does not lie. Well, I mean, so far it hasn't. But I can tell pretty quickly, right? Like, oh, I'm not playing on beat, or I'm speeding up, or I'm not playing. I've never played this part right, and
Yeah.
I don't know why that. I mean, I know people want. Like, I liken it to like if I was pointing at something across the street, right? If I have good aim, then chances are, right, if you draw a line from where I'm pointing to the object, it might line up. But chances are I'm not actually pointing at it. Like there's like a little bit of offness, right? But then the
Yeah.
closer I get to it, I can I can see then if I'm not pointing right at it. And I think the sound to me kind of feels that way right now too, right? You're bringing that music, that metronome, and what I'm playing closer together, and
Yeah, that's
I can
exactly right.
hear when I'm not
Yeah.
together. And as a practice application, I've really enjoyed
Yeah.
do that. So, and that's
Yeah.
a simple buy. You just need your headphones and your auxiliary, and in your whatever you're listening to practice
Yeah.
that.
I think that's a really good point because when you're like one of the hardest things in terms of like playing with a metronome with taiko is just the taiko throws off so much sound. Even a small drum like this one behind me, like even if I have my click going into my headphones and I'm just playing along with that, it's still like the sound, the level difference is so much that it's easy for and then your ears have this like natural compression thing where like if you hear a loud sound, it's attenuating the like the sound basically. So it like lowers the volume of things naturally. And so when you hit something super loud, your ear hears that and it's lowering that and that's lowering everything, right? And so that's why it's really hard to play with a metronome with a taiko like going full out because you have to have that metronome cranking in your headphones in order to match the same level. But the nice thing about doing that with the TimbreTaiko is that your headphone level, your sound level that the taiko is making, and the metronome level or the song you're trying to play with is like can be exactly the same level. And so when that happens, you really hear the difference. And the other thing that's happening is like in a live situation, like you hit this drum, right? It's sending out sound waves in every single direction. And they're bouncing off the room and they're coming back and hitting your ear at all these different times. So the sound, it feels more rich and big, which is great, but it's also harder to identify exactly where you hit. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah, and so like that's the other thing that's happening, and that's why you get the same thing when you're recording, because when you're recording, you're only getting that sound that's going straight from that mic. It's like one source, and so it's
Mm.
really pinpoint like where you're hitting, and then when you see that lined up with a metronome or a click, you realize like how off you are.
And this is great. You've mentioned recording. So let's move from there now. So this is the question a lot of people have been asking us. I've also
Yeah.
asked Shoji this many times. But it's funny. This is where it goes back to like we have different when I say how do you
Yeah.
record sound versus when Shoji says how do you record sound. He's thinking
Yeah.
like you want to like this, do you want to like this, like that, like this, like that. And I'm like I just want to record sound. I don't care if it's great. I just need to record something. And so what I'm about to mention now is how do you do that if you want to just record what we call, so I saw Jason had asked too, like what's the most cost effective way of recording?
Yeah.
And I do want to mention, like right up front, like cost effective, just like anything else, will mean then you're not necessarily getting the best thing. It might serve whatever needs you need at that moment, but if you want the absolute best version of that, then that's not the best way. But I'm okay with that. Shoji's not. So why don't Shoji talk about that and I'll talk about the cost effective way. So far we have is you got your before I move on, if you're not yet already on our Facebook TimbreTaiko group, yesterday I uploaded some manuals just kind of describing everything that I'm mentioning about the auxiliary cords and what they're called and how to assemble and stuff like that. So check it out. But this one right now you get to hear me describe it. So you got your auxiliary cord. The next thing you want to pick up is this fancy here, like a so it's basically this one thingy with two thingies. This is so professional. That's probably sounded terrible. Sorry. All right. Okay. You know what? So this is called, in low key terms, we call it a splitter because it's basically like it's splitting. But I think the closest thing is a combo audio adapter, also for about $8 to $10 on Amazon. And you want to make sure that it has like it's got like the hold on, the plug, got 3 stripes now, and then this things with more holes. Okay. But key thing is make sure they have a headphone logo and a microphone. Okay. So what you would do then is, what am I doing? Oh, right. Okay. So you've got your TimbreTaiko, you've got your headphones plugged in, and you want, oh yeah, okay. And you want to record, let's say in this case, you want to record using GarageBand or a music app or a audio recorder, any sort of
Video,
music,
yeah, anything.
video, right? Like people have been seeing a lot of people doing those cool videos on Instagram, right? This is how they did that, or some of them. I'm sure some of them also had the high tech stuff. So you got your cord, and we're gonna take our splitter, find the one with the microphone, because essentially, and then connect it, and click. Okay, all right. So essentially, it's because now we're setting this up to be like a mic. Yeah, is that how you would describe that,
Yeah,
Shoji?
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of,
Okay.
basically.
And then plug it into your phone. So now, whatever you're playing on the TimbreTaiko is going to be picked up by your phone, or
Yeah,
your.
but you want to make sure it's going out of the main out of the TimbreTaiko, right?
Oh gosh, you're right. See, this can get confusing. Okay, sorry. What he was saying is right now this part is not plugged in the right place. Hold on. So should be plugged in the main out
Yeah,
for
there you
recording.
go.
But once again, clear pictures and diagrams are on Facebook. So don't worry if
Yeah,
this is not the greatest way to explain right now. That's why diagrams are great. Anywho, so then what's right now your phone? My phone is a Android, so it tells me that it's now recording audio through the headphone jack. So that's how I know it's working. I think GarageBand, if or a lot of the music apps, if you basically what's great about this is now your phone's not going to pick up any of the ambient noises, right? Like someone walks in the room and slams the door while you're playing, or you sneeze. It's not going to pick up that. It will only pick up what you're
yeah,
playing on the TimbreTaiko. Yeah. So the only thing is, and I was saying earlier about quality of the sound is that, so this is my, again, not knowing tech, but what we found is that because it's like a really quick, simpler method, if you hit too hard, or that kind of thing,
yeah,
it has that like, it might have that like static sound that I guess because the input, there's just so much going in at once, that so some of the apps, I think GarageBand, you might be able to control it a little, but I don't know if I haven't been able to do
yeah.
that for Android. So what I
Yeah,
do
you're
is
not gonna get a great sound out of it. Yeah,
mhm.
and
It's
it mostly has.
but
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For simple things, or for your basic. Yeah, if you want like the absolute easiest, cheapest way to start recording, like that's a good way.
yeah.
Because it's only like a couple bucks.
So then another thing that I'll do as well is I'll get another one of those auxiliary cords, and this time actually plug it in to the aux in.
Yeah,
It's funny because I can, yeah, a lot of cords, but they that's how we get the stuff, right? And then you plug that into, for me, I plug into my computer or another phone, because I'm just I just have so many phones. Plug into my computer and I play my metronome app for the song that I'm practicing to. And so now when I do that, and I also play on the TimbreTaiko, my phone will record that as well. So that's been
yeah,
for me, a really cool, like quick, easy way to create practice materials for
yeah,
myself. Also, so for my group Not One, I recently actually just did that, like record a metronome with me playing a backbeat. And so I just recorded all these like 3-minute practice tracks for them to listen to practice to. And
yeah,
so yeah, I found that
yeah.
very,
That
very
kind of yeah,
useful. But at the end of the day, so the sound is really good for these very kind of informal kind of ventures. Um, I'm gonna pass it over to Shoji 1 second, but I think Shoji he gave me a really good analogy about what about how to look at sound. So essentially, what I just did, the sound that I got, is kind of like a low resolution photograph, right? So you got the picture. It's maybe kind of fuzzy, but it's there. And if that's what you want, then that's fine. But if you want like HD 4K, you got to get a better camera. You got to get the photo software. So very much like the same, sort of similarly with sound. If you want to get like the really good sound out of the TimbreTaiko, that's when we venture into Shoji world. All right, so
Yeah.
Shoji, why don't we pass it on to you? So let's just say I've done this cable thing so many times. I'm
Yeah.
now tired of that static sound. I'm ready to invest.
Yeah.
Sell some
Okay. So then the next level up is getting like an audio interface like this one. This is the most popular like 2-channel audio interface, and this is made by Focusrite. This is called a 2i2. These audio interfaces at this level, they're about $160-ish, which to me it's like a awesome deal, because I remember when something like this was like $1,000, and I was like, so $160 is like awesome. Uh, and so basically, what this has, it has 2 inputs, and so you can do the TimbreTaiko. Like if you have a cable like this is another kind of cable, right? It has that. This is going to go from the TimbreTaiko out, and it's going to split into 2 1/4-inch jacks, and then those will go right into your audio interface like this, and then this connects to your computer. And the other great thing about these, one is like the audio that you'll capture is just so much better. It's so much better because um, like if you want the analogy of like the, like the photo, like, well, actually phones and stuff are really, they're putting a lot of money into high quality components for their for their cameras. But, I mean, if you think back like 5 years ago, like your cell phone and your laptop web camera, it didn't give a really great image, right? Um, and so in order to get a good image, you do have to spend some amount of money. And that's basically the same thing with audio. Like if you're just relying on the built-in components, especially with the phones and the computers, like that's really where they cut a lot of corners in terms of components. So you're always going to be really, really limited by like basically the cheapest component that like Apple or Google could source in these phones. So if you want to get a higher quality sound, you have to have a dedicated unit that's going to capture that sound and turn it into digital information, basically. Um, so, and then these get more expensive the more inputs you get. But in the beginning, you really only need 2. And the great thing about these as well, they also have microphone preamps. So what that means is you could plug in any kind of mic, like if you have a 57 or any kind of mic that ends in a cable that looks like this. This is an XLR cable that goes right in there, and you can record real like world instruments, and so my basic recording setup, and I just did this like my portable recording setup is like one of these, and this is another unit. This is like a portable stereo recorder. These are also in that like 110-ish range or so. And this one's called the Tascam DR05. This is an old model of it. This is like probably 10 years old or so. But the new ones I saw, actually they can connect to your computer. So if you had one of the new ones, and I can't say this for sure because I haven't actually tested it, but I think you could connect your TimbreTaiko straight into here and not get this. But I don't want to say that for sure until like I actually test it. But anyway, my like portable like recording work on stuff setup is one of these, my audio interface, and one of these, and then my TimbreTaiko. Yeah, and with these 3 things, you can do anything, because this allows you to record any sort of real world like instrument. And so like this, a really good example of this is yesterday. my wife usually works in this room, and I'm in charge of the kids out there, right? And so I have my table, like just my dining room table, and I set up my laptop with this and my TimbreTaiko, and I was able to, in this like really portable and small package, like work on all of these ideas, record some stuff. I recorded taiko parts with the TimbreTaiko, and then I recorded some fue parts, and then I wanted a shaker sound, so I recorded my shaker with this, and this is going to be the thing that I'm going to be like when we do get to travel again. This is going to be my go-to like travel anywhere, record anywhere, work on ideas anywhere setup. It's going to be the TimbreTaiko, this which is also very small, this which is also very small, and then and then I'll be good. And I may get a new one of these and replace this. So I'll let you guys know if that happens. But I have a little clip here of an example of this was exactly what I was working on yesterday. And so it's not finished or anything, but this is a little example of like what you can get with these things. Okay, here we go. Yay. Yeah, so that was all done at the lunch table while trying to serve kids food and like think of ideas.
That's what you accomplish at a lunch table.
Yeah. But
I'll be
that's
lucky
my
if I even, like,
that's
put the
my
plate down.
primary use case for the TimbreTaiko is like, and the other time that this really works well is like when everybody, like the other time I get a chance to work on things is when everybody's asleep, and they sleep like right next door. So that's, I have all these drums out here, but I actually don't get to play them that much at night, because I don't want to wake everybody up.
Mhm.
So that's when I use this. It's really great for that. Yeah.
So people are
But
saying,
we're kind of running actually pretty long. So let's get to some of the questions that people asked and answer those questions directly, and then we can maybe wrap up. What do you think, Diana?
that sounds good. Well, you got some. Well, Amy says that was impressive multitasking. I am too. I'm just like, wow, okay, I need to accomplish more at the dinner table now because I thought just being able to food is like, amazing or enough. Yes. Actually, there was a question. So we got cost effective. Yes. How much Flores mentioned that. Oh, by the way, Zolt mentions the BT transfer to headphone was around 30 milliseconds. The best one. Sorry.
30.
Is that? Oh, the
Yeah.
best one that you found so far. So there's that.
30 milliseconds. Yeah, that's not acceptable to me.
To Shoji, but I'll take a listen and give the average user a.
Well, no, because you're also going to have lag from your interface, like recording. You know what I mean? So you have to add that to the Bluetooth lag, which, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And thank Jen Doris said she liked the diagrams. Thank you. I got a little OCD with making those, but so let me know if I need to clear anything up on those. Grady is asking, what is the responsiveness of the TimbreTaiko? Can you play fast buzz rolls or fast double stroke rolls and have basically intricate strokes? What do you think?
Yeah. You know what? Grady's got ridiculous stick skills.
Okay, so we got Grady and then again.
Yeah.
General.
Yeah. So
okay.
Grady's like here, and the rest of us are like, here. But I do think it would work well for you. There's a really great video of, oh man, who was it? The really fast shime video one from Hibika's.
Taishi?
I can't remember.
Taishi Yamabe?
Yeah,
Nice.
Yamabe-san.
Yeah.
Yeah, he posted that. So Grady, we'll link that video up to you, and you'll see like he's doing really, really super fast, intricate. He's not doing double strokes, but it's all like ridiculously fast single stroke stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's a
and
good
I,
template.
I
Yeah.
do double strokes and that kind of thing, and like little buzz things. But I don't have the stick skills that you do.
What? Yeah. So
Yeah.
Grady, I'll post that video or send that to you so you can. I think that is a good video to check out to see kind of maybe I'll give you
The responsiveness, exactly.
the responsiveness of it. I mean, I think it's pretty good. I was able to do some like rolls and stuff, but again, if to a level that it's even way higher than that, maybe that will answer it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had another question that Will O'Hare had emailed us about the interfaces and cables and that kind of thing, and we went over the interfaces. But the other thing that we didn't quite mention is like also connecting the tamper. Oh, we didn't talk about this either, but this could wait for the next one.
Yeah,
but if you want to use the MIDI functions of the TimbreTaiko, you need to connect it to a computer, and the TimbreTaiko uses the USB-A cables, right? That's like this. And a lot of the new computers, they give you only, especially if you're in Mac land, you only get the USB-C cables or the Thunderbolt cables. And so what you need is an adapter like this. And this turns your USB-C into a USB-A cable like that. I always do this backwards. But yeah, that's basically, you need some kind of adapter. But all the USB, like the USB-C is much faster than USB-A usually. So so you can always, like, it's not too bad to get everything to work together. Yeah. And let's see, who else is, Haiti asked a question about, they said they're following some of the videos on Logic Pro setup, but it doesn't translate so easily to the same steps in GarageBand. Videos of the digital taiko look great. I live in an apartment in the city, a great solution without annoying the neighbors. Blah, blah, blah. What bachi? Okay, we talked about the bachi, and we talked about how hard you could hit. That were their other questions. And they asked about recordings you could play along with already. Yeah, so I think we addressed a lot of those questions. The thing about GarageBand is, yes, we'll plan on doing some more like kind of step-by-step videos for people that are just getting into like recording. Because one of the fun things is, like, I feel like this is a lot of taiko people's entry point into digital recording and all the things that are possible. And let me tell you, like, it's crazy what you can do. Like, and even GarageBand, it's a very, very, very powerful program once you figure out all the things it can do and like how to set things up. But really, yeah, so we'll do some more in-depth videos because each one of those is going to require its own thing. Like, unless you're familiar with GarageBand, like getting that whole thing set up, it's a lot of like, like finagling through menus and stuff. But GarageBand, Logic Pro, Ardor, the Pro Tools, all these like DAWs, they all basically do the same thing. The one thing I would say is that GarageBand doesn't allow you to send MIDI information out. It only receives MIDI information. So what that means is, like, yeah, I could see Diana's eyes start to glaze over. Well, okay, so like,
my
okay,
so doesn't look like I understand.
So MIDI information, like, so this can also send MIDI information, basically. So MIDI information is just like the information of like which notes is being hit, how hard it's being hit, and when in time it's being hit. And then with that information, you can use this to trigger any kind of sample you want, basically. And like, if you guys have watched that awesome video that Shogo-san did, like when he has the sound, the different sounds, like the two-tone shime sound and the sasara sound, that right? That is like a sample that either he has in a pack or maybe he recorded himself, either way. And you set that up in your software, and then you use this to trigger that. That's basically what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, now that you mentioned, oh, sorry.
So GarageBand allows you to accept that MIDI information into GarageBand to trigger other samples, but you can't send MIDI information out from GarageBand back to the TimbreTaiko to play the TimbreTaiko sounds, for example. But with Logic Pro, you can. And that's just one of the weird things they decided not to include in GarageBand. But for all the other DAWs, you'll be able to send MIDI information out into your TimbreTaiko. And when that's useful is sometimes you have an idea that you can't quite play, right? Like you're like, oh, I want to play, but like when you try to play, it's like, oh god, this is gonna take me like 4 days, right? So with MIDI, you could program all that out to be perfect, and you could program it out exactly like you want it to sound, and then you send that into your TimbreTaiko, and then you record the audio from that, and that's where MIDI is useful sometimes.
So I was saying, like, so as you know, so just so you know, we don't want to take all your time. It sounds like, as you can see, there's a lot of things that you can do with the TimbreTaiko, and whether or not that's something, you know, whether all the stuff that Shoji has just mentioned is something you're interested in, or maybe you're more just want to do the simple basics like what I'm doing right now, it can all still be very helpful. There's a lot of things that we still haven't covered, so just through this, it sounds like we might be doing another, like a part 2 one of these days, maybe going into more in depth of some of these. Perhaps maybe Shoji can do one just that, and I could do the little hacks that you can do at home. And we also thought maybe even invite Shogol when he's I mean, right now, what time is it? Totally. 3. So we can wake him up now.
We have to change the time. Yeah.
You might change the time and have Shogol come in to say a few things. And so on that note, if you haven't already, I would definitely recommend that you join the kaDON TimbreTaiko Facebook group, mostly because that until we sort of figure another way to do it, that has been a very nice, like, informal, casual way of just, you have a question, Shoji or myself will answer. Sometimes I just come up with this idea. I'm like, wait, I think this would be cool, and I just enter it in there. So definitely check that out just to kind of see again if TimbreTaiko is something that you want to do, or just get new ideas with the TimbreTaiko. And if you haven't gone to TimbreTaiko yet, and after this you're thinking I might want to, we do have it available on kaDON for $30 off if you enter the coupon code Stay Connected. So get one because it's really cool.
The other thing, there was a question Steve Rogers asked, will we ship to the UK? And yes, the answer is yes. Although we are experiencing some significant shipping delays, we'll say, internationally. And that's like, you know, it's just the state of the world right now. Like, we get it out as soon as we possibly can, but, you know, things are really messed up out there. But we are able to ship internationally, but you just have to be really, really, really patient. And if you're okay with doing that, then contact us. When you go to our web store, it looks like we don't sell or ship internationally, but we actually do. So just email us at info@kadon.com, and we will find a way to get that to you. And yeah, I think that is basically it. Let's wrap up now because we're all like at an hour already.
Yeah.
Diane and I talk a lot. We thought this was gonna be like.
Why does my face give it away? That I'm just like, still going.
Okay.
No, but that's good. So yeah, so we'll again, thank you for joining us. It was very informal. It was kind of just like whatever comes to mind. But we are working on creating more like kind of manuals and maybe videos to explain some of this. So this is a good start. And we'll see you at the next live stream.
All right. Bye, everybody. Bye. Thanks for tuning in.
We are powered by you.
We are powered by you.
We are powered by you.
We are powered by you.